Valentina built a program the government never approved, using people who never consented to create a weapon she believed she could control. What she did not account for was that the weapon was remembered. This is the full story of what happened when every loose end she tried to eliminate ended up in the same room. The film opens with Yolena working as a cleanup agent. Standing on a rooftop, she reflects quietly on the darkness she carries within herself before dropping down onto the roof of the Ox laboratory and beginning her mission, moving through the facility without detection, taking out the guards one by one.
I'm in the cleanup business.
Inside the lab, two scientists have already been transformed into shadow-like figures, though Yolena does not notice. A third scientist approaches and attempts to explain what has occurred. She dismisses him. She destroys the lab, eliminating all physical evidence, then reports back to Valentina. Elsewhere, Bucky is now serving as a congressman and is engaged in efforts to remove Valentina from her dual role as CIA director and head of the Ox Group. During a congressional hearing, Valentina faces accusations of abusing her authority by using the super soldier serum to create enhanced individuals through a classified program known as the Sentry project. Congressman Gary leads the questioning. Valentina redirects the conversation, invoking the former president's transformation into the Red Hulk and the near-catastrophic consequences that followed. She argues that with the Avengers no longer operational, the Ox Group exists to address threats that no one else can. Recognizing that her position is becoming untenable, Valentina instructs her assistant Mel to destroy all remaining evidence. She also asks whether the cleanup agents have been reassigned to new tasks. Mel confirms they have, with one exception. Yolena refused her new assignment. Meanwhile, Yolena's father Alex is living in the United States. He passes his time reviewing old footage from his years as a Soviet super soldier. Yolena visits him and asks what he has been doing since they last saw each other. It is apparent he has not been doing much. She then asks him what it meant to be a super soldier and whether any of their missions carried real purpose. Alex tells her that nothing compares to saving lives. He says her sister Natasha understood that and chose to act on it. As Yolena leaves, she contacts Valentina and requests an assignment with public visibility. Valentina agrees on one condition. Yolena must first complete a final cleanup job. The following day, Yolena is dispatched to eliminate a person planning to steal classified data from Ox Labs. She traces the target to a concealed warehouse. Inside, she finds files related to the Sentry project. While reviewing the documents, she hears footsteps. John Walker enters and opens fire without hesitation. His assignment is to kill Yolena. A fight breaks out between them. Before either gains the advantage, Antonia arrives and attacks Walker. Her assignment is to eliminate him. Moments later, Ava appears. Yolena's target is Ava, and Ava's assignment is to kill Antonia. For a period, all four are engaged in a simultaneous confrontation, each pursuing a separate objective. The conflict concludes when Antonia is about to kill Walker, and Ava intercepts, killing Antonia and completing her task. A man named Bob then appears, attempting to flee. Before he can reach an exit, all access points seal shut, trapping everyone inside. Bob introduces himself to the group. That same night, Valentina hosts an upscale event, maintaining appearances despite increasing external pressure. Congressman Gary attends and privately confronts her, stating that the truth will eventually surface. Valentina remains composed and dismisses him. Shortly after, Bucky arrives at the gathering and pulls Mel aside. He attempts to persuade her to come forward against Valentina, telling her she still has the opportunity to act responsibly. Mel declines and attempts to leave. Bucky gives her a card and tells her to contact him if her position changes. Back at the warehouse, Yolena and Ava begin to piece together what has happened. They conclude they have been deliberately set up and are now being treated as loose ends, evidence of Valentina's conduct that needs to be removed. Walker remains skeptical and does not accept their assessment. He turns his attention to Bob and demands to know how he entered the warehouse. Bob has no explanation. His memory of how he arrived is entirely absent. Ava attempts to use her phasing ability to escape, but a high-frequency ultrasonic signal forces her back. The facility is more thoroughly sealed than initially apparent. At the party, Bucky approaches Gary a second time and proposes that they work together to pressure Mel into speaking. Gary declines, informing Bucky that a separate course of action is already underway and that they need to wait. In the control room, Valentina assesses the situation and issues her decision. She authorizes a kill sequence, initiating a lethal lockdown of the warehouse. Inside, the group determines they have less than 2 minutes before the sequence triggers and the building is destroyed. They devise a plan to locate and disable the power source blocking Ava's phasing ability. Yolena finds it. Walker moves in and destroys it by force. With the signal down, Ava phases through the wall, reaches the exterior, and unlocks the door from outside. The others exit seconds before the explosion. Once outside, Yolena makes brief physical contact with Bob. The touch triggers an immediate and involuntary response. She receives a dark vision and buried memories from her own past rush forward. The contact reveals that Bob carries something within him that the group does not yet understand. Mel subsequently reports to Valentina that the group survived and is now cooperating with one another. She shows Valentina footage from the warehouse. Valentina identifies Bob and asks who he is. Mel does not know but commits to finding out. She contacts General Holt and requests that his forces intercept the group before they can disappear. What neither of them knows is that Alex, positioned nearby disguised as a driver, is listening to the entire exchange. At the destroyed warehouse, the group regroups. Walker again confronts Bob and demands an explanation for how he came to be there. Bob states that he was at a medical center, and the next thing he knew, he was inside the warehouse. Later, Yolena and Bob speak privately. Through that conversation, Yolena finds that Bob carries a past marked by the same kind of darkness she has known. As the two come to a mutual understanding, Walker breaks through a wall and uncovers a concealed section of the structure.
You're welcome.
What lies beneath them is a vast underground shaft. The only path out is upward. Walker attempts to jump and climb, but cannot reach the top. Bob proposes they cooperate. One by one, they begin ascending, exhausted but committed to getting out. During this time, Mel identifies Bob's full name as Robert Reynolds and determines that he was one of the original test subjects in the Sentry project. She brings this to Valentina, who absorbs the information with visible alarm. Bob is the only known survivor of the program. The group reaches the top of the shaft and climbs out. Walker retrieves one of Yolena's weapons and assists in pulling the others up. When he takes Bob's hand, he is struck by a sudden and overwhelming wave of Bob's darkest memories, transferred through physical contact. Outside the facility, they find themselves surrounded by military forces. They formulate a rapid response. Ava will use her phasing ability to acquire a nearby vehicle. The others will rig an explosion inside to create a diversion and divide the soldiers' attention. Outside, Valentina speaks with General Holt and instructs him that the protocol is non-lethal. She requires at least one of them taken alive. Before those orders can be carried out, the explosion goes off inside the facility, drawing a portion of the soldiers toward it. Walker and Yolena move through the confusion, neutralize several soldiers, take their uniforms, and make their way toward the exit just as Ava returns with a vehicle. The group loads in. At the gate, they are stopped by a secondary checkpoint. Bob steps out of the vehicle and draws attention to himself, giving the others time. General Holt, unaware of Valentina's revised orders, commands his soldiers to open fire. Valentina attempts to stop the order, but is too late. At that moment, something within Bob activates. He rises off the ground, airborne, though without control of the ability. Seconds later, he loses consciousness mid-flight and falls, striking the ground with enough force to generate a shock wave that incapacitates the surrounding soldiers and overturns the vehicle carrying the others. When the group recovers, they begin walking. Yolena recounts what she learned about the Sentry project, how test subjects were used and manipulated without authorization. Walker explains that this is the basis of the ongoing investigation into Valentina. The program was never sanctioned, and people were harmed as a result. Valentina's team recovers the unconscious Bob and transports him to a decommissioned Avengers facility she believes is both secure and removed from public awareness. As morning comes, Yolena and the others continue on foot until Alex pulls up in his vehicle. He tells them he moved toward their location as soon as he received the coordinates and offers them a way out. During the drive, Alex lightens the atmosphere with jokes and the suggestion that they formalize themselves as a team, drawing comparisons to the Thunderbolts. The reception is muted. The tension, however, briefly lifts. It is interrupted when a convoy appears behind them and begins closing in. Walker warns that they should accelerate. The vehicle is already at its limit. The convoy opens fire. Walker leans out with his shield to absorb the impact. Ava attempts to use her phasing ability, but is stopped by an ultrasonic device mounted on one of the pursuit vehicles. Yolena returns fire. Before the situation deteriorates further, Bucky arrives, strikes the convoy from a secondary position, and removes the remaining vehicles from pursuit. The threat is eliminated, though the group's own vehicle is also forced off the road. At the decommissioned Avengers facility, Valentina and Mel arrive. Mel raises concern about maintaining custody of someone as volatile as Bob in his current state. Valentina dismisses the concern. She enters Bob's room and attempts to speak with him. Bob asks about Yolena and the others. Valentina tells him they are being looked after, which is not true. When she mentions Bob's father, his composure breaks. The building physically responds to his anger. Valentina attempts to calm him by taking his hand. The contact pulls her into a vision of her own past. The images are severe. She pulls back, shaken. Bob stops her from leaving and asserts that he is capable of managing his abilities. Valentina composes herself and exits, instructing Mel to schedule a press conference for the following morning. When Bucky assembles the group, he explains that each of them is now a material witness in the case against Valentina. The others push back. They clarify that Valentina did not simply use them. She attempted to have them killed. They also detail what they have uncovered about Bob and the true scope of Project Sentry. Bucky is initially resistant. The account is significant, and he treats it with skepticism. Then Mel calls. She quietly confirms the substance of everything they have described. The Sentry project was real. Bob was a participant. He is dangerously unstable. She urges Bucky to bring reinforcements before the situation escalates beyond recovery. Accepting that the threat is real, Bucky agrees to act. He asks the group to come with him. Yolena hesitates, then decides that stopping Valentina and getting Bob out from under her control are both worth the risk. Back at the facility, Mel attempts to reason with Valentina once more. She points out that Bob cannot be reliably weaponized given his current instability. During their exchange, Mel notices a device in the room, Bob's kill switch. Valentina ignores the warning and returns to Bob's room. Bob is now conscious and showing some degree of control over his abilities. Outside, Bucky and the group breach the facility. They drive into it and move through Valentina's security forces in a direct engagement. Valentina interrupts the fighting and summons them to an upper floor. When they arrive, she addresses each of them in turn, focusing particularly on Alex, dismissing the Red Guardian as a figure no one remembers. When Bucky moves to strike her, Bob intervenes, stopping him with a telekinetic force. Valentina presents Bob as the Sentry, the instrument she intends to use to reorder events on a larger scale. Alex charges forward in anger. Bob repels him with a single strike of considerable force. The others engage, but Bob's combination of physical strength, telekinesis, an energy shield, and resistance to direct attack renders their efforts ineffective. When Bucky strikes with his vibranium arm, Bob removes it without apparent effort. The group withdraws. Valentina instructs Bob to finish them. Bob does not comply. He does not want to cause them further harm. Valentina reaches for the kill switch. In the physical struggle that follows, it falls from her hand. Bob reacts with anger toward her. In that moment, Mel retrieves the kill switch and activates it. Bob collapses. Believing him dead, Valentina and Mel depart the facility. Inside, Bob regains consciousness. The darker force that has been present within him since the Sentry project now takes full control. Outside the facility, Yolena speaks to Alex about her sister, about what she has lost, and about the weight of responsibility she has carried since. The conversation reaches something in her, and she moves forward with renewed clarity. She and Alex prepare to return to the fight. Bob, now operating under the influence of the darker entity, begins transforming individuals in the surrounding area into shadow versions of themselves. He destroys a helicopter and nearby structures. The group responds, focusing on evacuating civilians from the immediate danger. The shadow effect continues to spread. Yolena moves directly into the affected zone. Inside it, she encounters visions of her own past, guilt, trauma, and unresolved pain. She pushes through and finds Bob within the shadow environment, disoriented and without clear agency. She speaks with him. Bob tells her that the being acting through him is not truly him. It is the darker force that inhabits him, using his form. Yolena urges him to resist it. Before they can make progress, shadow entities attack them. Bucky and the others arrive and engage the entities, creating an opening. Yolena suggests they move to the origin point, the laboratory where Bob was created. The group travels there. At the source, the shadow force redirects its attention to the others, leaving Bob unobstructed. Bob confronts the shadow form directly and attempts to destroy it. He is unable to fully commit to the action. Seeing his companions captured and in pain around him, Bob chooses to act. He engages the shadow with full force. As he does, it begins drawing him in, threatening to absorb him entirely. He continues. Yolena and the others move in, pull him back from the edge, and together the corruption is broken. The shadow effect retreats. The city returns to its prior state. New York is no longer under threat. Afterward, the group reassembles. Walker acknowledges what Bob did. Bob has no memory of the events. They turn and see Valentina nearby and begin moving toward her, unaware that a gathering of press is positioned just beyond her. What do you think? Can someone like Bob, a person built by an institution and then discarded by it, ever truly be free of what was done to him? Or does the program never really end?